Skyrim, the 10th game in the Elder Scrolls series, the 5th main titled game. Last time, I rewrote the story of Skyrim and asked, what if Skyrim was good? Now I'm going to continue with the Dragonborn DLC. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the earlier episodes, please go back. There'll be a link in the video description to explain more. But this is a very subjective piece of fan fiction, and therefore, a lot of people won't like it, some people will. So with Dawnguard, we're sticking to the premise that you can start it whenever you want. However, with Dragonborn, we are making this a direct expansion pack to the main game. What this means is that you have to beat Alduin, and when you do, that's when the Dragonborn expansion will kick in. If you are just killing Alduin with the Dragonborn expansion on, you will immediately be told that there are Dragon Cult members assaulting the High Hrothgar, and there will be the Greybeards fighting against an entire army of dragon cultists. Even though Alduin's dead, they haven't given up. Now, if you haven't done this in real time, say you beat Alduin a long time ago and you finally installed this expansion, what's going to happen is you're going to get a letter that's telling you to get to High Hrothgar right now. Hell, the Greybeards could even do their Dovahkiin shout again to basically get your attention, get you back up to High Hrothgar. But basically, the whole point of this is that the Dragon Cult hasn't gone away. Remember that in my version of Skyrim, the Dragon Cult members are here and relevant to the story because it was Alduin's will basically reaching out through all the Alduin shrines. Remember, we're using the old Nord religion, not the new one. So all the people who previously had worshipped Alduin, tried to placate him in order to have misfortune not befall their house, they got possessed. They went crazy. They became the Dragon Cult. Now, as far as we knew, as soon as Alduin got banished back to Aetherius, that should have been that. No more Dragon Cult, right? Wrong. It turns out their leader, the true Dragonborn, is calling to them through the same conduit, the Alduin shrines, that everyone else was getting spoken to earlier. So while you're killing these guys, we die for the true Dragonborn. Lord Miraak claims our souls. So on and so forth. There's a new villain here. His name is Miraak, and we need to learn more about him. That's where we'll go to the Blades, or whichever faction we decided was the main faction. I'll be getting into the side quests of Skyrim after I'm done with the main DLCs. But by this point, all of the bandit camps and just random places where you'd encounter enemies have been replaced by Dragon Cult shrines. And there should be a shrine of Alduin in each fort, in each cave, in each place where there'd normally be bandits. And the idea is you can basically Fusro Da the statue, and it'll crumble. And so you'll be literally be destroying Alduin shrines, and then later it'll get repopulated by bandits again. Skyrim is at this point mostly taken over by followers of Miraak, the true Dragonborn. And we're gonna leave in the stuff where people wake up in the middle of the night, they go walk out to the nearest dragon barrow, and they start excavating those barrows because they're trying to dig up the dragon bones. Because guess what? The revival of the dragons hasn't stopped. In fact, the Dragon Cult members are taking the dragon bones to different layers. You know that Draco Lich, that dragon skeleton in Labyrinthian? We're gonna be making more of those. The Dragon Cult, specifically Miraak, is animating those skeletons. And so in addition to having regular dragons, we're going to have these skeletal dragons that Miraak is bringing back. And these skeletal dragons are going to be fighting against the regular dragons. Basically, Miraak is killing the dragons and raising them as skeletons. And then he's digging up other skeletons and raising them too, basically creating a dragon skeletal army. And he's usurping all the Alduin shrines now that Alduin's dead. See, it turns out Miraak isn't just a Dragonborn, he's also a master necromancer. Now, after you find out a little bit more about him and start this crusade to basically destroy all the Alduin shrines that have been populated around the different areas, this will lead you to open a black book. Once you've opened that black book, you will go into his realm. He'll be standing there with dragons, he'll turn around, he'll zap you instantly, you'll fall to the ground just the same way, but this time, instead of just kind of going back out of the book like you did before, a dragon's gonna come in and save you. Specifically the dragon who you dealt with in the main quest of Skyrim. That one that you learned his name and everything. It turns out he wasn't too happy with Alduin, and he's paying you back essentially for having gotten rid of Alduin. Now he's free to do whatever he wants. He bashes Miraak and grabs you and takes you away. So you have another kind of dragonflight sequence, but you're still in Apocrypha, so he does this shout which brings you back to Tamriel. You wake up, and he's standing there over you. And so we're going to give Miraak some backstory here, via the dragon. The dragon's going to tell you about how Miraak was the Dragonborn, and despite his dangers, Alduin was able to place him under his dominance, for a time. Hemoris Mora took his knowledge from a previous Culpa, one that Alduin had already devoured, used it to break Miraak free from Alduin's control, and imparted the knowledge that, hey, Alduin's going to devour the entire world if you don't do something, Miraak. You're the Dragonborn. You can do this. That's how Hemoris Mora lured Miraak into his service, turning him from a dragon priest lord into a necromancer and practicer of dark arts. Now, when we go to find out more about Miraak, we're going to find out that Alduin learned about his betrayal, and Alduin chomped into Miraak, killed his body. Okay, so Miraak's soul went inside the Black Book, and from there, he's connected to all the other Black Books. Alduin tried to burn the Black Book, didn't burn. Alduin devoured the Black Book, and another book on a shelf somewhere else became that Black Book. In short, Hemoris Mora was screwing with things. So basically, Miraak doesn't have a physical body anymore. It got eaten by Alduin. But that's kind of awesome if you think about it, because he's speaking to people through the Black Books. And eventually, after Alduin was banished, he was able to usurp Alduin's shrines as well. And he's got all the Dragon Cult members convinced that he is now the mortal incarnation of Alduin. They don't realize, because these are new Dragon Cult members, they are not the ones he betrayed in the past, they don't realize that he was actually Alduin's enemy. This runs parallel to kind of like how the Tribunal were shaped as the avatars of certain Daedra. Likewise, Miraak is passing himself off as the avatar of Alduin. And the new members who are basically being mind-controlled just accept it. The true Dragonborn speaks the word of Alduin. So, as a Dragonborn, you are immune to Miraak's call through the Black Books. So it's your job to go and basically collect the different Black Books. And you go inside and you basically steal their power. And when you steal the power of a Black Book, it turns back into a regular book. Just like a burnt or ruined book. Like, there's nothing special about it anymore. You've literally rendered it null and void. So it can no longer corrupt people. Likewise, you're destroying the Alduin shrines, which are also breaking things down. The final steps on this particular journey are going to take you to Solstheim. Yes, most of this didn't even take place on Solstheim. This was all in old Skyrim content. And now, once we properly established who Miraak is and how to stop him, we're going to his temple to take him down. There'll be two possible paths you can take. Either by agreeing to help Hemoris Mora and become his champion, basically replacing Miraak, or rejecting Hemoris Mora and taking the path of the skull and basically using the power of the Allmaker. Hemoris Mora is going to grant you Bend Will, and the Allmaker is going to grant you a different type of power, one that neutralizes Bend Will, and basically just dispels all illusions and enchantments and allows you to see things for what they really are. We'll call it a true seeing shout or something like that. Now, once you've defeated Miraak, you're going to see this huge shrine, which it's basically a shrine to Alduin, but then it's got like these Hemoris Mora tendrils like wrapped around it, basically suffocating it. And this pulsating mass of stone and flesh is basically what Miraak was using to extend his will out and control people. He wasn't just doing the Bend Will shout constantly, he distilled the essence of Bend Will down into a single thing. You'll have a choice. You can either destroy it or absorb it. Now, assuming you didn't get Bend Will earlier, if you absorb it, you'll gain Bend Will in its basic state. If you did get Bend Will earlier, Bend will be augmented to last longer, be stronger, so on and so forth. So either way, your second chance at getting your Bend Will shout would come from this shrine. Alternatively, you can destroy the shrine. And all of these Alduin shrines all across the world will basically break. So all the caves and forts that have been overrun by Dragon Cult members, suddenly it's back to bandits. Suddenly all the people who were in town that were waking up and everything, they're going back to their daily lives. However, if you chose not to destroy it and instead absorbed its power, there's still going to be a number of bandit forts. People are still going to be waking up and digging up dragons. Basically, you've just usurped their place at the top of the dragon cult. That's all. And people around you are going to be affected by its weird energies, and you basically solidified yourself as having brought this dark power into the world. Whether or not you rejected Morrowind Mora, how he feels about your encounter will depend entirely on whether or not you destroyed the shrine. If you didn't destroy the shrine, instead you absorbed it, then he will congratulate you, and he will basically say, wherever you go now, my power will be with you. You are my champion now. Whether you know it or not, you are spreading my word. You are my champion. He'll send you back. If you destroy it, however, he'll become enraged, and his monsters will attack you. And again, a dragon who is glad to be free of his influence will come down and rescue you at the last minute, as Miraak's platform is basically overrun by these horror creatures. So the good ending has Skyrim basically returning to its normal pre-Alduin state, whereas the bad ending has Skyrim basically staying the way it is, filled with dragon cult members and weird stuff going on at night. You see, my main problem with this is the developers of the Dragonborn DLC tried to give you agency to get to Solstheim as soon as possible. What it felt is that this whole landmass was just tacked on for no good reason. And the people with their vague recollections, it was dumb. And you know what was also very dumb? The fact that Miraak was talking to people through the stones, these guardian stones across Solstheim. If anything, those guardian stones should have been warding off Miraak's power. I would have even written into the lore some kind of story about how those stones were basically sealing Miraak inside his temple, and they had the people slowly chipping away at it with their hammers. Instead of trying to build up little shrines around the stones, Miraak would have basically had the people, slowly chipping down these monoliths, because they were restricting Miraak's power. I would want the skull to be much more prominent. I absolutely despised the way you only had the option of siding with Morrowind Mora, an objectively evil person. Especially after you witness the Skull Elder basically getting impaled by his Cthulhu Lovecraftian tentacles. It was genuinely irritating, because it set a definite path that you as the Dragonborn had to take. There was literally no other way. It's like they were trying to shoehorn in a solidified single ending for your character. Like, yeah, he kind of got absorbed by Morrowind Mora and became his champion forevermore. That's literally what they tried to do. They tried to take the multiple possibilities of Skyrim, which was the vampire, werewolf, normal, imperial, stormcloak, all the different choices that you could have made, and they tried to distill them down to a single truth that they could point to in the future, which was, oh, he's a follower of Morrowind Mora now. Write the Dragonborn off on page 4 of a book that basically talks about the Dragon Crisis. We'll never see the Dragonborn again, and that was bothersome to me. I feel that player freedom should still be there. You should still have multiple chances to change your destiny, and if you're going to give the player's power fantasy to where they can kill Alduin, there's simply no way that type of character would have to be the puppet of a Daedric prince. That's silly. Alduin is greater than the Daedra. If you don't understand why, then watch my Elder Scrolls lore series. Alduin is a part of a cycle. Now, overall, the Dragonborn DLC was decent. It had a lot of concepts that I liked, but it ultimately felt forced. There were other ways they could have handled it, but what I've created here are 2 alternate endings. One where you destroy the Dragon Cult, and another where you basically become its leader. The Dragon Cult members will be passive with you because you are essentially their leader, influencing their consciousness with your mere presence. There would still be regular bandits in all the shrines that you destroyed, which would have been quite a few in order to progress through the quest far enough. Now, people like the Blades, the Stormcloaks, the people of Whiterun, none of these people would even understand that you are now the leader of the dragon cult. It simply isn't known. The dragon cult people don't really recognize you as their leader so much as they feel compelled not to harm you and to more or less obey your orders. One is a return to the status quo, the other one is embracing the dark side and more or less making Skyrim on the road to a future damnation. Next time, I'll be talking about the Dawnguard DLC, which will not operate as an expansion pack like this one did, but rather a questline that you can pick up anytime you want. But I'll be talking about that next time. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like, and do please leave a comment. Either way, y'all have a good one.